For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise. And you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. Thank you so much for tuning in this week, and what a week that it was. You know, it started out on Sunday. You got the Oscars, you got Kate Middleton and her Mother's Day photo, and as an entertainment reporter, I've been doing this a very long time. I've been in this biz, I'm an old hack at this already. When you have a Sunday that is so ridiculously busy and I always sit there going, it's going to be one of those weeks. It's going to be one of those weeks. Typically, I say that on a Monday morning. If it's a Monday morning and we have like a high-profile celebrity death or some kind of a big scandal or something happens, then if it's a Monday morning, I'm like, okay, it's going to be a crazy week. But the fact that it was Sunday and all that was happening on Sunday, and when we do our entertainment show called Entertainment Wrap-Up, we have about 3.5 minutes. We were doing the Oscars recap, and then all of a sudden all this Kate Middleton stuff comes, and we're like, well, the Oscars are big, but this royal scandal is pretty big. We had to divide it in half and go, we've only got a minute and a half to recap the Oscars, so, we got to rip through this. And, so we didn't give as much coverage to the latest round of celebrity, of Hollywood patting itself on the back. Nevertheless, we recap them because that's just what you have to do the next day after the Oscars. But the Middleton story, we had developments like every day after that. So something that people don't understand about that whole thing with the photo editing failure was like, why is this such a big deal? Why is the media still talking about this now on Friday? I will explain why. As somebody who's in the media and somebody who was on the receiving end, we subscribe to all of those agencies and outlets. So we got the photo. We get all that kind of crap all the time from different places. So why is it a big deal? I will tell you coming up in just a little bit. And also then as we get through the week, Don Lemon was fired again. And you can't help but laughing. You're just kind of like this, He was on a downward spiral at CNN. You already know what happened with him there. You know the scandals and everything that went down there. And, is he going to come back? Is he going to come back? He announces this big return and womp womp. It is kind of funny. I'm sorry. I have to laugh about that. So that's what we're talking about for the next 30 minutes. 30 minutes of time-wasting fun on the Scribble, and it starts right after this.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
JB here, back on the Scribble. So let's talk about the Oscars. We live in such a weird news cycle that, the Oscars all of the award shows were something that you still talked about days later. And now, I'm at these award shows, and I'm kind of like, I don't know, how long, it was Sunday? Okay, it just seems like it was so long ago. And I think what it is now, and I say this every award show season, I have probably, even since I was hosting my syndicated radio shows, that people, I think the general public is kind of not so intrigued by celebrities. Okay, I'll put it this way. When I first got into entertainment broadcasting and, was interviewing celebrities, covering red carpets, going to the different reality show finales or, whatever, the celebrity had a different, and I'm saying the word celebrity had a different meaning. now it's the quote-unquote influencers. And, Billie Eilish, I think it was at the Grammys, where she kind of got busted for complaining about, like, TikTokers or something being there. And I got to tell you, though, as somebody who, we're in a radio studio right now. Behind me on our wall, the wall of fame that we have, is my press passes and pictures of me on all these red carpets. And I just think about how it's changed in terms of not only just the red carpets, but the award shows themselves. And so I tweeted, I think just before the Oscars, it was the Oscars, yeah, that I said, Billie Eilish is right. Like, leave these events up to the Hollywood people, right? The nominees, whatever if it's music, if it's movies, whatever, leave it up to them, and then the trained professional media. Because now that it's just sort of like an open season for just because you have a big audience, now you're invited. I mean, we had to jump through hoops to get invited to a bunch of these award shows. And we got denied, I don't even know how many times. We had 20-some, 40-some radio stations behind us. And even then, it was kind of like, yeah, no, you're not. No. And so it was a struggle. And we had, 300,000 listeners, whatever. But there was just a different not content consumption. That sounds like you're having calories, but it was more, I don't know. It was just, they wanted to know if we were in the LA market, the New York market. You had to show something for your radio program, when you were in syndication. And now, I mean, they just look at it and go, oh, you're on TikTok and you've got 400,000 followers. Okay, great. And I don't know that translates to anything, really. I mean, now let me just compare CNN here for a second, because, Anderson Cooper has millions and millions and millions of followers across all of his, across Instagram and Twitter or whatever. And he's barely getting like 500,000 viewers. So the logic of, okay, you have this many followers, that doesn't necessarily mean eyeballs. That just means that people follow Anderson Cooper. That doesn't mean that they're watching his show, buying his book, listening to his podcast. That means sweet fuck all nowadays. And so that's something that I keep trying to get, as the PR professionals go, they're getting younger and younger and younger. So they're the ones that are more tuned into the social media influencers. And anytime I say that word, I put it in quotes because I just hate it. And so now it's kind of like, well, these events aren't exclusive anymore. Like, there was something, and I'm not even saying that I would be bragging because I'm better than you peons who aren't at the event, but it was just a little more controlled in the sense that you're a trained journalist, you're a trained broadcaster, you're going to actually come up with some content that, you're going to have either an intellectual conversation for that minute and a half that you have a celebrity. You're not just all of a sudden holding out your phone and going, hey, look, this is, look at it's Chrissy Teigen. Hey, look, I'm here with Chrissy Teigen. Hey, look, it's Will Ferrell. Hey, it's Billie Eilish. Like, you just wouldn't do that shit back in the day. And when we had Joan Rivers on the show, Melissa Rivers. We had Melissa Rivers talking about her time covering red carpets with Joan. And I remember saying to her, like, you would never dare do ask for a selfie. And we were actually explicitly told before going to red carpet, you'd get your media, package of stuff. And it explicitly said, like, no photographs, no autographs, don't bring your kids, like, none of that crap. That just wasn't cool. You would not have said, hey, Meryl Streep, I'm just going to hold out my camera. Listen. We just didn't do things like that. It wasn't my moment. When I'm covering it, I was there talking to the celebrity. This was their nomination. This was their, whatever it is that they were there talking about. And it was their moment. It wasn't about me doing selfies at the hotel before and while I'm getting ready. And like, that was all behind the scenes stuff that you kind of had that veil of, like, you didn't, I don't know. I guess it's interesting to get a behind the scenes look at television shows and things every once in a while. But I think it loses something when everybody's there doing it. And so that's, I think, what's happening with award shows. And you even have some celebrities going and saying, like, I see the people in their outfits before they get in the car and go to the award show. Why do I have to tune into the award show to see them now? And I don't know that people really have that loyalty. Yes, you have your Taylor Swift fans. Yes, you have your Beyonce fans. But again, they see so much of them all over social media. Do they care to tune into the Grammys to watch them? They've already seen them perform live in concert. Why now the Grammy stage? Like, who cares? And it's just this overexposure. And then there's also the point where, you've got these everyday people who are struggling to get by in terms of buying groceries, whatever. And now here we are watching millionaires, pat each other on the back and wear dresses that, cost more than your house. So there's also there's that part of it too, right? Where, it's kind of like, do I really want to see all these people sort of like rubbing in their elegance in our faces? So for me, it's funny too, because when I mean, I have to watch it and then recap the winners the next day on local morning radio stations or local morning shows with different stations. So, I'm tuning in, but I'm not really paying attention. I'm not quoting, and I'm not going, this is the first such and such, first winner from such and such country, and this is the first, left-handed ambidextrous person. Like, I'm all about diversity and, stuff like that, but it's like, this is the first winner that was left-handed. This is the first red-headed winner. This is the first diabetic. This is the first one on Ozempic who's won. Like, I don't, where do we draw the line, right? When we're calling out. So for me, I'm sitting there, I'm listening to what's going on. Again, like I said, I'm there, so I'm either in the press room or I'm in the theater itself. And so I'm hammering away on my phone, It's sort of like when you live tweet a show, when you're watching, you're kind of more so focused on your screen, you're just kind of hearing, you're not actually watching, right? Because you're looking at your phone. And that's sort of what it is. I'm hearing who the winner is. Okay, we type that. And then we have our producers who are, editing the script and, recapping things and putting it all together for me to record later. But there isn't excitement. And not that I very rarely quote Donald Trump, but, he went and said something about it was like, it was either low energy or it was boring or whatever. But quite honestly, it is, though, after you've gone through, the Golden Globes, Screen Actors Guild, Grammys, People's Choice Award, like, it's just everything. You're kind of like, oh God, another one, here we go. And again, like I said, the person at home, maybe you loved Oppenheimer, maybe you loved Barbie. Do you give a flying fuck that they win another prize? You saw that movie last summer. You've already moved on. You don't care about it anymore. And it's just like with the Grammys. They're winning for a song that you heard a year ago, year and a half ago. You've probably already listened to it on Overkill, so you can't stand it anymore, but you liked it and great. I don't know many people who are sitting there going, oh, that's Beyonce's another win. That's 14 for Beyonce. Like, no. And again, unless you're a diehard, then sure. But does the audience care? And I think that's why we saw that slump for years of the ratings going down for award shows. Now they're coming back because you're getting the Beyoncés, the Taylor Swifts, the Barbie fanatics. You're getting those people showing up. But I don't know. People go and say, well, it's because people aren't watching TV anymore. Now they're on streaming platforms or whatever. Again, you want to watch, like I said, if you're a Beyonce fan, you want to watch either her performance and that's it. You want to watch her categories that she's nominated in. That's it. You don't want to sit through the Grammys. It's a 3-hour concert. So if you don't like country music or they always have the rap stuff at the end where you feel like you're going to get shot just watching it because half of it's bleeped out on TV. You fast forward through stuff like that. And so for the Oscars, with Trump saying that it was boring, I mean, he's kind of right. I mean, I don't know. Like, what are you expecting? It's people just getting up and walking up to a stage. Like, we're not tuning in to be sure, the monologue is, I guess, the sort of entertaining factor of it at the beginning, and then there's the performances naturally. But I mean, nobody is sitting there going, oh my God, Oppenheimer swept. The reporters are, the media, the websites, the blogs, the whatever. But I mean, the everyday person, like, are you going into work on Monday after the Oscars that you watched last night? Are you going in tomorrow and saying, yeah, that was pretty. They won 4 trophies last night. Oh, they won 7. Oh my God, they lost every category. Nobody's doing that. You don't do that anymore. I think we started doing that really with Survivor. That was kind of the big thing, right? Was everybody coming into work the next day. And then American Idol was next. Everybody talking about, the performances and who they think. But it's just overload now, especially award show season. Like I said, it's every 2 weeks or so there's another award show. And because they're all nominated across the different, Screen Actors Guild is movies and TV. Golden Globes is movies and TV. Oscars is movies. Like at People's Choice, movies and TV. Grammys, music. People's Choice, music. It's enough. And then you've got the Country Music Awards, and then the Academy of Country Music Awards, and then oh my God. So tell me your thoughts on award shows. Live at jbonair.com. Live at jbonair.com. Back on the Scribble right after this.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
Oh, the Kate Middleton scandal. Jeremy Bradley here back on the Scribble. You know, I was just talking about the award shows, and the latest royal scandal was Sunday as well, because that was Mother's Day in the UK. So you're probably, I don't know. See, this is where I'm going to switch to, I said award shows, you're kind of sick of it all. The Kate Middleton scandal, I kind of love it, because as an entertainment reporter, every new twist is just delicious for me, because just when you think it can't get worse for her, there's another twist. So you've seen the picture, you've already seen the photoshops of it. I even did one of myself in a towel wrapped around my head in a bathrobe holding a coffee cup, and I'm behind the kids. So you've seen the other mock-ups of people inserting themselves into the photo. You've seen the zoomed in circled pictures on TMZ and the different tabloid websites. But something that was interesting on Monday and then even Tuesday was the general public not really understanding why it's a big deal, because people go and say, and I saw them, they were discussing it on The View too, which is really funny because they're part of ABC News, and then you have these quote unquote journalists on. Sunny Hostin always says that she's a journalist and doesn't quite understand. Well, here's the deal. Let me tell you folks, I took journalism in school. I've been a newspaper columnist for 20 years. I own a media company, and we subscribe to all of those different agencies. So we got the photo, we got the picture that she had sent out, and so people didn't get it. And here's why it's different. Because it's one thing to post it on your social media, to post it on her social media page, filter it, edit the shit out of it, whatever. Give your kids extra fingers or whatever. That's fine. It was sent to news agencies though as a news photo. So here's the deal. If you are contacting a news outlet, everybody always wants their picture and their videos that they shot somewhere to be on the news, right? You're sending the regular picture. You're not editing it. That's why these outlets, news agencies, whatever, they have photo editors. They have people that do all that crap. You send them the actual raw photo, unedited, untouched, not cropped, don't do anything to it, just send it how you shot it. Maybe you can lighten it or whatever, but you're not making changes to it, because then it's not a news photo. That's the difference here. And taking it one step further is because this is the royal family who's already sort of in question for all of their sketchy antics just, since the beginning of the year. We haven't seen Kate, right? Then that's even worse then, because there's so much speculation, there's so much distrust with the royals that you go and send out a news photo. And again, this is where you'll have those photo editors who will be on the receiving end of it, or graphic designers, whatever, and are going to look at that and go, something not right about it. So is it a huge deal to the average person? No. But now when you're going to be getting quote unquote news from this source, and again, this isn't just like Joe down the street. This is the fucking palace. This is the royals. So if they're editing photos, and it's something just so simple, it's a family photo. So who cares that, maybe your kid had lint on the sleeve and that was it? The photo editors will take care of that. And again, different if it's a magazine cover, yes, you're going to have that touched up all to hell. If it's, whatever, but that's not news. And so that's where the news outlets are just like, we're going to go through everything that they've sent us now. We're going to analyze every photo they've put out as news. We're going to start, we're going to hack, we're going to question everything. And so from a PR perspective, like I said, this is delicious for a gossip, entertainment columnist, reporter. The right thing to do for anybody who's had PR training is to get ahead of it. When Kate went and tweeted the next day or whatever, apologizing, I was an amateur photographer. Well, that's amateur photo editing. That's not actually amateur photography, right? Those are two different things. So as the amateur photographer, you explore different things. That would be your lenses and filters or whatever you have on your actual camera. Right? That's a photographer is different than an editor. Those are two different, completely, they're not the same thing. So that made it worse because she, sort of, I guess, we don't know, right? If she was told to put that out, if she just did it on her own. Typically, the Royals work that they go that anything that's sent out goes through a whole shit ton of people before, it's sent out to the public. They're very strict on their messaging. And so with this one, everybody's all these outlets are reaching out to the palace going, comment, what's the deal? What's happening? Why aren't you saying anything? Where are you? And that, I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, for somebody who has chased stories and, been aggressive, had to be aggressive with things like that, that makes us go 10 times harder. Because, and I knew this was exactly going to happen, if the palace didn't come out and say something, or if nobody sort of clarified what Kate then did on Monday with that follow-up tweet or post or wherever it was, I think it was Instagram, you're giving us time. Right, so while we're waiting to hear from you, we're now going to use that time and we're going to dig. We're going to find, as TMZ did, 16 photo edits instead of just the 3 that we initially heard about. That's going to take, the graphic designers are going to weigh in. You're going to have all these different people chime in. You're going to have Adobe looking at it. You're going to have, and that just makes it explode even more. Again, entertainment reporter, love it. So, you'd almost think, okay, the palace, let's put something forward. Let's show the original image, put it to bed, whatever. Because really, when you think about it, how bad was the actual image? Well, how bad was the original? Now, the reason is also to the speculation that people are saying that maybe this was an old photo. Maybe this was from back in the day. They're actually the kids are kind of wearing the same thing that they were at a charity event months ago. So was this taken that same day? People are looking and going and saying, well, it's been a really sort of cold March in where they are. So how is it so green and lush there? That also doesn't seem right. Just come out and say, and then, like I said, this doesn't help that she's had her mystery surgery and hasn't been seen, and everybody thinks that, either she's dead and William is having an affair and they're not together anymore because she's not wearing her wedding ring in the photo. It's just, again, like I said, it's delicious for me because I just can't wait to see, what's going to happen next. Like, that's real entertainment for me. I can't sit through the Oscars for 3 hours, but I can absolutely sit through and wait and just I will go onto different news websites, onto, Rolling Stone, BBC, CNN, TMZ. I'll read every story about the exact same thing just to see what everybody's saying. But I'm neurotic like that because I enjoy it. Tell me what you think about the photo flop about Kate Middleton. Is it too overrated? Bonnie Winter's she's our executive producer from radio and podcast, and she's just like, this is all about nothing. And she's an old hack. She's in her 70s, but she's not really getting it. I said, but come on though, just from a tabloid, from a sensationalized perspective, this is awesome. We gotta love it. Anyway, send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
Continuing here on the Scribble, just chugging along as we go through the week, because, just the stories that have been happening. Let's talk now Don Lemon. Poor Don Lemon. I have to laugh. Just as I was saying about Kate, this is one of those things where he's had such a terrible reputation as being, and again, if you're not a media insider, you don't know the stories about him working at CNN and just kind of the there's always that term toxic workplace or whatever, but that's really how it was described with him for the years that he was there and different people who'd worked with him. And so he's somebody who's been fired from almost well, he hasn't really had many high-profile media jobs. But anyway, so, but certainly he was on a downward spiral, a downward trajectory, I guess would be the word, from CNN. And that was from his time, being in prime time, and then he got demoted to mornings, and then the whole, he was on that morning show. I can't even remember the name of it now at this point, but, he was offending like every other week. There was something, he was suspended, right, for saying that Nikki Haley was past her prime. He got into that argument with Vivek Ramaswamy about something about I don't know what race you are or whatever race you are, he said to him. And so, it was like, wow. So something like that is somebody you're almost kind of rooting for him to fail. Do you know what I mean? Like it's different. You know, you don't want to see people say, "Oh, I wish him no ill will." Oh, I wish him. Well, but when somebody's like that, you're kind of, there's a bit of sweetness to it, right? When they do have that spectacular downfall. And so with him, when he was fired from CNN, he kind of had to go away for a while. And that's, speaking of PR, as I have been all episode, that's one of the PR things to do, right? Is, you take, he's got plenty of money, so you hide out for a year, you don't work, you just lay low. Don't put yourself in the spotlight more and more and more, because everybody still hates you. So, give it time. And, he was only gone for not quite a year. He announced earlier, just a couple months ago, that he was going to be on Twitter with his own talk show. Now, you have to remember, though, that when they were launching CNN Plus at CNN, remember that shut down after not even a month, he did have a talk show there, and I think there was only one episode. So it is kind of funny. Now, that wasn't just him specifically getting canceled. Everybody got canceled with that. But, again, they also brought some of those shows to the other platforms that they have. So they could have easily picked up his talk show and run it on one of their other, places. So he's, very excited about his new show on Twitter, and it's going to be on, the biggest, what do you call it? The biggest global platform, as he was saying on an interview, ironically on CNN after he was fired from Twitter. But, you just kind of look at this and go, he just can't get a break. Now, here's the thing, though. Is it that people are just being unfair to him? He was thrashing Elon Musk and saying, well, he just doesn't, people like me. Well, okay, so here we go now. Are we playing the race card? Are we playing the, analytical thinker, the critical, the hard-hitting journalist? What does that mean, right? Opinions or people like me, opinions like mine, or... And so, I kind of lean into that, go, I've been around long enough, I know what he's suggesting. And it's kind of funny because Elon, I mean, as much as Elon's an asshole, I mean, I'm not even going to defend Elon. He's just such a dick. But there's something about him where you're kind of like, it's kind of funny to just the way he handles things. Apparently, just texting Dawn and saying contract canceled or contract terminated, whatever the wording was. And it's like, that's kind of funny. That's the way he deals with it. It's just like, yeah, you're done, buddy. You're done. Get lost. And it makes people hate Elon even more, but there's just something really fun about it. And even just the way in the interview he's saying to Dawn, I don't have to do this interview. You asked me to do this, and and because it's on my platform, that's the only reason I'm doing it. He totally, I think, from the preview clips that we saw, the rest of the episode will run on Monday, but I just think it's kind of funny because you have Dawn thinking that this is going to be some big hard-hitting, newsy kind of piece, and if anybody, we all know what Elon is like, so it's not like what was he expecting to get out of him? That'd be like, okay, I'm going to do a sit-down with Donald Trump, and he's going to answer me honestly every question that I ask. Bullshit, then get your head out of your ass. That's not what's going to happen. So when you hear that there's going to be this interview between Dawn and Elon, right, you're kind of like, oh, well, that's kind of interesting, like that. Oh, well, we'll get to know the inside scoop, because Elon doesn't like CNN, so maybe they'll trash talk CNN, what do they do? And then after Elon ends up trashing, we're like, nah, it was exactly like CNN. He's done. So it'll be interesting to see. Don he's as he said, he's doubling down now on the freedom or free speech thing, but He's running the show on YouTube or other platforms that he said, but I think YouTube was the one that he called out specifically. And we'll see how long it goes. Is he going to be one of these content creators where if the money's not coming in, he's just going to bail after, a month or two? Maybe he'll run it a little bit longer just to sort of save face. But, he doesn't have the best reputation, let's be honest. I can't see... if it's on YouTube, then they'll pick ads or whatever, to run before. But good luck getting sort of any female-owned business to be your, title sponsor of a show, right? So he might be limited in that regard, but who knows? I mean, it's interesting because there's so many ways that you can remake yourself. And I've always said, I was very grateful to have a platform on the radio where I had a whole bunch of different stations. But what happens if they go to business? What happens if they shut down? You're relying solely on their platform, their channel. Same thing when we were doing tourism programming and we had all these pictures and everybody's like, why don't you have more photo galleries on Facebook? We've got our own website. What happens if Facebook goes away? What happens if our account gets shut down, which they randomly do to people? Then everything is lost. Why would we want to lose that content? We have it all on our website. So we're not going to put it all on Instagram when we have our own site. That way we get the traffic, we get the ad space and the ad money and the whatever. Like that was a business decision that we made. So we didn't have Instagram for the, 15, well, no, sorry, we did start Instagram, I think, 2 or 3 years left of my show. But I was on the radio for like 10 years and I didn't care. My husband was on Instagram. He was a big addict of that. But I was like, we already put it on a website. We already have it on Facebook. We already have it on Twitter. Like, what? We're just putting the same thing everywhere. Like, what's the point? So that's where it was like, have your own website, have your own place to put your content and put all your stuff. Because, it's great that Don was relying on having Twitter as being this massive stage, and I don't blame him. That's a huge stage. That's a potentially really big audience. But at least he's got the fallback then to YouTube. But there is something that's kind of lesser now when it's not quite as, it's not exclusive to Twitter, that it's going to be just another YouTube page, right? People always ask me about that too after the radio show. Oh, are you going to host another show? Why don't you start a YouTube channel? Oh, and just be another YouTube channel that people are like, ugh. It goes back to what I was saying in that first segment about the Oscars. The audience doesn't have that loyalty to content anymore, but just because there's so much of it. Think about the different celebrity podcasts that you listen to, or even this one. I don't expect, this is where I am not delusional at all. I know that people are not sitting there waiting for the next episode of this. That's just the reality. I'm not even telling myself like, oh yeah, people are going to wait to download the next one. No, I know that that's not true. And so with these celebrity podcasts, it's kind of, the ones that I listen to are Smartless, the David Spade and Dana Carvey one, Bill Maher, but Smartless and the Dana Carvey one, like it's the same guest. Or in Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, and then there's one other one that I used to listen to, the Rosie one, but that one got canceled. But anyway, it's the same guests just going to all of them, and it's no different than the late night TV shows. You'll have the movie star on Colbert, but he was on The View this morning, and then he's on Good Morning America, or then he was on The Today Show, and you're kind of like, do I really need to see this person talk about the same thing over and over again? So with these celebrity podcasts, I mean, sure, they've got big companies behind them, and they're getting paid, a lot of money, but I have found now lately that I'll see like, okay, well, they've, Conan has Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then Arnold Schwarzenegger the next week is on the Dana Carvey one. So I'm like, do I need to listen to him tell the same story about growing up in Austria? Like, again, he's already said it. So it's content overload. Having said that, I appreciate you for tuning in this week, by the way. We're going to take a break. Back on the Scribble right after this.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
JB here on The Scribble, once again running a little bit longer. I say at the top of the show, 30 minutes of time wasting fun. Well, we're on 32 minutes now. And we try to keep it that way on purpose, just because I'm going to make the show even longer right now. They were just like, they were giving me the wrap-up signal, but I was so having fun talking about Don Lemon that I just kept going with that. I appreciate consistency. So I'm from the radio world where I would be hosting a 2-hour weekly show, and it was 2 hours. We didn't, unless it was, a live event, you might sometimes run over 2 hours, but you couldn't, because we were on so many different stations that they're all cutting away from us at 9:00, period. There's no, some of them might if we kind of go longer, but we're not just on one station at that point. We're on 12 or 14, however many be carrying our content. So with this, I like when, I mentioned those podcasts, those celebrity ones that I listen to, I don't like when Bill Maher has 40 minutes and then an hour and 50. Like, I'd like some kind of consistency, because if I know that this one's usually an hour, well, that's the one I'll listen to when I go and walk my dogs, because that's how long we walk, right? So there's different things, or when you go to the store, or if you're going somewhere, okay, this one's a quick, I can get through one episode of that because it's going to take me this long, and that's how long it is. So that's why we keep it at 30 minutes. And one of the major reasons was because early on, and we've been doing this show for 8 years now or something, somebody had said, I do 30 minutes on the treadmill. And so it was really great because I know that the 30 minutes is up when your show is ending. Like, yeah, you have the countdown or whatever on it, but you're kind of like, all right, I know the show is 30 and that's what I do on my treadmill run. So that's why we've kept it that way. Now, as we head into minute 34. But anyway, we're out of time. My name is Jeremy Bradley. This is The Scribble. Feel free to give me a shout anytime. It's always awesome hearing from you. The email address is live@jbonair.com. Live@jbonair.com. Talk to you next week. Bye-bye for now.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.
If you want some real